Hey, what's going on everyone, Freakydude99 here, and today I have one of the deadliest Threadling Warlock builds you've ever seen. With Season of the Witch, Strand got some balancing like 30% more Threadling damage and 3-second lower Tangle cooldowns, and along with that, this season's artifact perks revolving around Tangles means this build can go into any piece of content like Master Nightfalls and crush them with ease. Of course, with all my builds, there's a picture at the end of the video along with a dim link in the description. Without further ado, let's jump into the build. Kicking things off with the subclass, we have our super Needlestorm, which is one of the highest damaging supers for Warlock. This super launches homing needles that deal impact damage, explode after hit, and turn into Threadlings if they don't hit an enemy. These Threadlings spawned from the super deal 41.5% increased damage to enemies, so even if you miss, you'll still get some big damage numbers in. For our Rift, we rock healing as the boost to survivability and harder content is always a plus. You also get 20% damage resist while casting it, so it can save you in certain situations. For our melee ability, we have Arcane Needle, which gives us the ability to unravel targets from a distance for extra damage, as well as spawn a tangle at long distances. With 3 melee charges, you get faster regen the more charges you have. 1 charge is 25% increased regen, and 2 charges is 50% increased melee regen, so trying to hold on to more of your charges is actually beneficial in the long run. Over to our grenade ability, we of course have Shackle for the insta-suspend on enemies and champions. You throw 1 bola that splits into 2 more on hit and suspends enemies for 5 seconds. Mini-bosses get suspended for 3 seconds, and bosses can't be suspended and instead take another damage instance after a second of being hit. Now over to our first aspect, we have our first one, Mind Spun Invocation, which allows our Shackle Grenade to be consumed to activate Weaver's Trance for 25 seconds. On takedown, enemies explode, dealing damage and suspending enemies within 5 meters. Damage counts as grenade damage for other interactions. For the second aspect, we have the Wanderer, which received a buff this Season of the Witch. Destroying a Tangle causes a suspending burst after a second that applies Suspend to all enemies within 7 meters. Thrown Tangles also are unaffected by gravity and seek out and attach to enemies before doing the Suspend burst. Also, Threadling takedowns spawn Tangles too. Down to the fragments, we got Thread of Rebirth, so Strand Weapon Final Blows will spawn a varying number of Threadlings based on enemy tier. 3 red bars spawn 1 Threadling, 2 elites spawn 2 Threadlings, and a mini-boss or boss spawns 3 Threadlings. Thread of Evolution makes our Threadlings travel 30% faster and deal 33% more damage to enemies. Thread of Warding makes us get Woven Mail for 10 seconds on Orb of Power pickup. Woven Mail grants 55% damage resist against enemies except for precision hits and melee attacks. And finally, Thread of Generation causes every damage instance to give grenade energy that varies depending on the source of damage. And we got the subclass all picked, so let's get some weapons on us. Our main weapon of choice will be the Neomuna Machine Gun Circular Logic with Hatchling rolled on it. Hatchling makes Precision Final Blows spawn a Threadling, and with Circular Logic being an adaptive frame, it means we have an easy time scoring crit hits on enemies from any range. With good aim, you can spawn a lot of Threadlings and clear through any adds quick and easy no matter what difficulty. For your other weapons, you can really use whatever you want with this build. There's now plenty of Strand weapons to choose from, so you shouldn't have any issues finding something to use. Having another weapon rolled with Hatchling is nice, but not needed. As long as you cover champions when they show up, you won't have any issues relying on Circular Logic for most encounters, especially with all the heavy ammo that spawns with this build. Onto the artifact and its perks, we of course grabbed 3 anti-champion mods depending on what we need and what we're using. These also overcharge the weapons for a 25% damage buff in overcharged activities. You can also pick up Origin Perk Specialization 1, which makes Origin traits enhanced on weapons from Neomuna, Season of the Deep, Season of the Witch, and Crota's End. Head Rush grants bonus 20 reload speed to the trait effect. Nanotech Tracer Rockets deal 20% increased damage. Unsated Hunger gets double stat bonuses. This makes handling and reload speed go to plus 120, which doesn't really make sense, but yeah. And Cursed Thrall gets its duration doubled to 15 seconds. And then we can also grab Diviner's Discount, so Scav mods cost 1. We'll also grab Thanatotic Tangles, which will cause 2 to 4 Strand weapon takedowns within 15 seconds to spawn a Tangle, and then also Origin Perk Specialization 2, which makes those same weapons with the Origin traits become overcharged. We'll also grab overload machine guns. It can only be grabbed though if you actually need it. The overcharge is currently bugged, so it doesn't actually work right now. We'll also grab Elemental Fury, which makes stun champions receive 35% increased ability damage, and then Communal Pickups causes ally interactions with your tangles to decrease your tangle cooldown by 5 seconds, and it also grants ×3 matching weapon surges for 11 seconds. And if we aren't using overload machine guns, we can instead grab refreshing pickups, which makes it so on tangle pickup we get 33% ability energy for the least charged ability. And then, since Monochromatic Maestro doesn't work with Strand, we use Elemental Munitions, so Tangle Takedowns have a 20 to 33% chance to spawn a special or heavy ammo brick. Chances are independent, so they can both spawn at the same time. And then finally, Frenzied Stacks. While armor charges are active, thrown tangles have 30% increased damage with 1 charge, 60% with 2 charges, and 90% with 3 charges. And with our Alkalite staff in hand, let's get into the armor. For the helmet, we got Font of Wisdom for a +30 in intellect while we have an armor charge. Ashes to assets makes grenade final blows generate more super energy, and Harmonic Siphon, so every 2 strand weapon final blows we spawn an orb of power. For stat distribution, we first focus resilience for the 30% damage resistance at tier 10, second we focus discipline so we can keep Weaver's Trance up at all times, and because we use our shackle grenade a lot outside of using Weaver's Trance, and then finally recovery for faster rift regen and health regen. Over to the gauntlets, we have firepower, so grenade final blows generate orbs of power. This works with Weaver Trance's damage. Bolstering detonation gives 20% rift energy, and momentum transfer grants 20% melee energy on grenade damage with a 7-second cooldown on it. For the chest piece, we always grab 2 elemental resistances for a 25% damage resist against the threat modifier. Arc threat means put on 2 arc resists, and then throw on a 3rd resist, whether it be an element or a type resist like solar resistance or a sniper damage resistance. Down to the boots, we have our exotic swarmers. Upon destroying a tangle, spawn 2 Threadlings, and Threadlings now apply Unravel. Unravel makes enemies take consistent damage that refreshes when you damage them, and it also spreads Unravel to nearby enemies. For the mods, we get Harmonic Holster, so we don't have to worry about reloading our Strand weapons, especially Circular Logic, as its reload speed can be very low depending on your role. We also pick up Strand Scavenger so we can never run out of Circular Logic ammo, and Recuperation for a health burst on Orb of Power pickup, which is just more survivability. And finally to the bond, we grab Outreach and Bomber, so on Rift use we get 20% grenade and melee energy, and then a Font of Restoration so we have a +30 in recovery while we have an armor charge. And that does it for the build, but let's cover some tips for using it. Mainly this is a Threadling build, so prioritizing spawning them is always high. Circular Logic will be your main weapon for clearing through 80% of enemies, with your special and primary mostly coming out for extra damage on champions or so you don't run out of ammo in harder content, which rarely happens with Elemental Munitions active and the Strand Scavenger. Also make sure you keep Weaver's Trance active in any situations with a medium amount of adds. If there's nothing really around but the boss, you can save your shackle for a panic suspend if you're ever in danger, or just from extra damage on the boss. Even still, you don't have to worry about it because we have the Wanderer, which is a free shackle grenade every 12 seconds. Currently, the Wanderer isn't suspending champions if you throw it at them, but it is suspending them if you shoot the tangle next to them and it explodes there. Now, this build really takes the cake every season, and with more Strand weapons and with the recent buffs to Threadlings, it just keeps getting better and better. No matter what, I suggest you try out this build as it's the best summoner build you can run in Destiny 2 right now, and it's so much fun to be running in any piece of content as you have the damage, you have the survivability, and you have the fun. Of course, if you need a picture of the build, there's one on screen, plus a dim link in the description for easy copying. Leave a like and a comment, and a subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video, everyone. Freaky out.